So, all right, folks, today we're going to shred Bank of America's online banking interface, specifically related to their transfers. So, this is my small business banking account at Bank of America. One of them I have multiple. And I often have to do wire transfers for acquisition and purchases. And when doing so, Bank of America has conceivably created a fairly useful interface. You go to transfers, and you say, okay, I want to transfer between my own accounts if I want to move money between them. I want to send money to someone else using their email address or mobile number. That's Bank of America's little PayPal thing. Using their account number at Bank of America or using their account number at another bank. Or if you want to receive money, you can send an email using their PayPal-like service, right? So they also have this helpful help me choose a transfer option. Of course, they've violated all the rules of interface design, despite the fact that this is in a menu. There are items here that are not clickable. So an inconsistency in their interface is confusing. At the top, they have bold elements that are not clickable, okay? But in middle, they have unbolded elements that are clickable, but do not have an underline to indicate that they're clickable. That's okay. There's a lot of interfaces that do, but there's also not a color change interface indicated, whereas you can see on other aspects of their interface, they do have a standard URL color change with a mouse over underline. But they completely do it differently in this menu, remaining inconsistent. They do a mouse over hover to indicate it's a menu item. Now, some UI folks would say, well, because it's a menu, it's okay that it's different. But I disagree. Despite the fact that I'm seeking a link to click, which is what I would be finding in a menu, if that's all that was here, then it would be okay. But in this case, we have bold items that are not clickable, have no mouse over effect. So I know in the menu they're not clickable, but down below I have a menu item that has a mouse over underline effect, but is not in blue text, and doesn't have the same mouse over effect as these because it's already got the shade behind it. Obviously, most people will figure it out, but it's still just making it take longer to figure out what I want to do, right? The other thing is they pretty much express all the options here. This little wizard takes you through a process, but it's still a very similar process to the process you get when you use one of these. Now, in the case of between the same banks, you go to a different interface. But in the case of using their account number at another bank, you end up in this interface, okay? And you're ready to make your transfer, which is fantastic. Now, pay attention to this tab, okay? Because I've already done my transfer, but I don't know when I'm back where I was in the interface, or when I've come into my primary account interface, when I'm at the primary page of my account interface, you can't see anything related to existing transfers. So here's my problem. I've already done a transfer. I've already initiated a transfer. I'm checking on the status of it because it's late. It was supposed to be there today to the person I'm sending the money to, and it hasn't shown up at their bank. And it needed to be there by today, so I'm pissed. So today I called Bank of America, and the woman on the phone assured me that it would be there by 5 o'clock today, despite the fact that I sent it at 11:43 a.m. yesterday, and it was supposed to be there for $10 today. Now, of course, they say, well, we'll get it there by 5, so we can say we made it the next day. The problem is conceptually, most people expect that that's going to go out in the morning, or at least before the time when I initiated it the day before. The second problem is that I know they're making money on the float, so it just pisses me off. They're holding on to that money to make money on it, and they do it all day, and they accumulate vast amounts of money doing it. They inconvenience my business when they're supposed to be serving my business, but that's a user experience on the services side that we're not going to have to address here. So no matter where you come into the account, right, you can't get to seeing your existing transfer activity. Their interface forces me to go through initiating a transfer in order to see my transfer activity. There's no transfer activity in this menu item. There's none in this menu item at all. There are no transfer activities here, no transfer activities here, no transfer activities here, no transfer activities here, or in any of the other menu items. Okay? The problem with that is all I want to do is see my transfer status. Now, I can go into my account ledger and see the transaction, but I can't actually see an updated status because the terminology they use in the transaction is different. Pause the recording just so I'm not traipsing through all my personal and business account records to show you this is what I see in my actual transfer, right? Now, here they have uncategorized pending as the terminology they use, and in the transfers area activity, they call it in process. So I don't know what either of those means. And interestingly, I can edit the categorization, but that doesn't actually reflect what's going on, right? So back to any of the other tabs or pages or interfaces, there is no way for me to get directly to my transfer activity to see the activity that's actually going on. It's an infuriating process. So I have to go through here, go to transfers, and then I have to actually initiate a transfer. So I've done login, click. I've landed on my main account page. And now that I want to see the actual transfer activity, the real-time information about the status of that transfer, I can't get to it. I have to go through and initiate a transfer. And I can guarantee you that most users are never going to figure this out. If they kept their ledger up to date with the transfer status and used the same terminology, it might not be so bad. But because they don't, in the transaction logs, use the same terminology and show actual real-time status, you can't get the information you need, right? So I have to actually, in order to get to the transfer activity tab, I have to go and initiate a transfer. So in this case, I can initiate one, use their account number at another bank, because I would assume it's close to what I'm looking for since that's what I've done. So now they put me into the interface to initiate a transfer. I've now been through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 clicks, and then I can get to my transfer activity. And here I can see my actual transfer and see that it's in process, further annoying me and pissing me off because my transaction has not actually gone through. And it was supposed to. So Bank of America, I want my $10 back. Now, the interesting thing here is I then went and had another pitiful user experience because I called them today and they promised it would happen by 5, right? So I went back to contact us because I'm angry and I want to contact them and discuss what my problem is. Now, most banks, I have 24-hour chat access, but for some reason Bank of America doesn't do that. So I go there, we can help you online, by phone, or in person. Well, in fact, you can't help me online. When I go to small business, which is what my account type is, and click go, I then get best way to contact us and a blank screen. Then suddenly the chat is not available for this topic comes up. Now, this is what I get every single time I go to contact us for small business. This tells me they don't have anybody trained for handling small businesses online via chat, despite the fact that it would make it much faster and much easier for users in the small business community to get support. Number 2, when I called today, I actually got on the phone and was told that there would be a wait time of between 1 hour and 12 minutes and 1 hour and 49 minutes. Well, obviously I'm not going to wait on the phone that long, right? They do have the sense to have a callback feature, so I did it, and they called me back 2.5 hours later, not 1 hour and 12 to 1 hour and 49 minutes later. Across the board, Bank of America is violating their promises to me over and over again. And then they don't do something as simple as making a chat available for me as a small business customer. Number 1, how do you get to the point where your phone system is at 1 hour and 12 to 1 hour and 49 minute hold wait time? So then it was, at the time of filming this, 9:26 is when I called them. So I looked here. I'm an existing checking account. I'm in the business line, and I look over at the times, and they're supposed to be available from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Instead, when I call the number, I go through, enter your debit card number, enter your PIN number, choose English or Spanish, Then when I finally get through all of that, they tell me that they are closed now and have different hours on the phone line than what they publish on their website as being available till 10 p.m. So overall, piss poor user experience, piss poor user interface design on some elements. Now, I will say that they do a great job of providing a lot of help in a lot of places. Most of the other interface elements are pretty good, and I'm able to get to where I want to for the most part. But this is one of those things where if you don't test every element from the perspective of your users and what they might be seeking, you end up causing them more grief. So I might come here and say, help me choose a transfer option. Well, they've built this handy dandy little JavaScript wizard that actually lets me choose those elements. Now, they also already have asked me these questions in this menu, so I'm not sure why I need to answer them again. Why would I need help choosing a transfer option when I can answer these questions in my head and choose the option? If you're going to default to it, I would have a menu item that's just transfers. You go here, you come to this page, you choose your little box, or at the bottom you have your standard transfer option status. Nope, Bank of America makes it really difficult. Now, got this big arrow over here. What is it for? Is this indicating to me that I can move forward? And what's going to happen? I've got the same interface elements here. Now, I will admit this is pretty good. So I'm going to transfer between my accounts at Bank of America. I want to transfer to and from accounts at other banks or to someone else or a bank. So let's do this. This is what I'm looking for, the transfer I already started. And then I have to choose again in the US. And then I have to choose again the time. So if I'm a user and I don't know better, and I choose this one, trying to find my existing transfers and their status, I've gone now through another 3 or 4 steps to try to get to where I want to be. And again, I still don't get any data, and I have to make another click to see my existing transfer activity. So just a big oversight on their part, and just really not thought through from the perspective of a user experience and what they might need. Again, lots of good help information. Everything else seems to work pretty well, but this piece of it is infuriating if you're a company that does a lot of transfers. And it's infuriating that their support options are not clearly spelled out and not saving the bank money and time by providing an option like chat that would get me through my problem much faster. So here I am at 9:42 at night. Still don't know what's happened with my transfer. The person that's supposed to be receiving my money hasn't received it, and I'm getting absolutely no help online from Bank of America. The actual transfer activity is in process, which is the way it's been since I started it yesterday at 11:43 a.m. All right, that's it. A shred on Bank of America Business Online Banking.